Welcome to another episode of URC Chumps Podcast. It's been a great weekend. Well, depending on how you look at it, from a rugby point of view, not so great, but some good lessons being learned there, along with the All Blacks and everything. But before we get into that, we got Dara back, though he's wearing a Spanish top. We shall forgive him for that. And we got Tim as well. Dara, how you doing, man?
Good. Been a long time. Excited to be back. How are you yourselves?
All good. Some of the viewers have been asking, where have you been? Tim,
I missed the
how's things going
authentic
yourself?
Irish accent.
Yeah, I'm good, man. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. I will be honest, the new gym schedule for me has made me a little bit tired, but getting on with life anyway. But yeah, I mean, we've got some hectic stuff to cover this weekend because it's been an awesome week and everything. But yeah, let's start off with our views for the week. Starting off with the British and Irish Lions. A very disappointing Australian side coming out against the British and Irish Lions. I don't think that scoreline did the Lions any justice for how they played. But Australia wasn't even in that game.
First half was complete domination. Australia couldn't get front football. They got battered in the collision. They were getting turned over the rate of knots. Tyburn and Curry and Jack Conan were disrupting them immensely. They were getting in the line out. You know, the big ball carriers, your Genges, your Furlongs, McCarthy's, they were in. Australia just couldn't get the ball off the Lions, it seemed, for a while. You know, the Lions were 14 up, deservedly. Australia then scored a nice try, a bit of a chancer try. Poor from Keane and very good from Max Jorgensen to kind of rip the ball out of the air. And at half time, I don't think Australia could have complained the scoreline. But what killed the game effectively, they were only 12 points down. Effectively killed the game is Sheehan scored straight away in the second half, about 2 minutes in. But from that point on, there's the positives for Australia. They were way better in the second half. They got that ball front foot. They got quick possession. Once they took off Lina, who I thought looked out of depth, to be honest. First test against the Lions, fairly bad place to put them in. Once Donaldson came on, they looked a lot more organised and they broke down the lines. They scored 2 nice tries. Harry Wilson, number 8, captain, was immense, as he usually is. Not enough of Australian side stood up. But I suppose the positives are, if they can pitch up next on Saturday, like they did in that second half, it will be a closer test and it will give the Lions problems, especially with kind of rumoured injuries to McCarthy and Keenan. Yeah. So, you know, there is positives for Australia.
I'm glad you said that because, you know, Australia having scored those 2 late tries, you know, they'll take away a positive from the game where they got dominated. If it wasn't for those 2 tries, it would have been a no contest. I thought the British and Irish Lions sort of took their foot off the pedal a little bit. But they were just dominant in all sort of facets in the first half. They won all collision points, contact collision points, rucks. They were dominant. You know, how good was Tom Curry? You know, all the doubt around him. You know, picking him over. You know, Van der Merwe, Van der Merwe or Morgan.
Yeah. Well, Tim as well, I suppose the other point is the other guy they really questioned in there was Tyburn, and he was unbelievable as well.
Yeah, great. And, you know, because he's not an out-and-out, I think they played him at 6.
Yeah, they played him at 6.
Yeah, and he's not an out-and-out number 6. So, you know, for me, Australia just looked out of depth in the contact situation. You know, the centres, they got a great centre pairing. They didn't quite fire the Australian centre pairing. They are dangerous. But I think you were quite correct. The 10 was out of depth. I know, to chuck him in against the Lions for his first test on his debut, you know, it's a rough one.
I don't understand bringing James O'Connor back into the squad if you're not going to play him with the amount of experience he has to come up against that Lions side, because Lyon is a good player. But,
Yeah, no doubt. But
even if you were going to start him, he should have started at least against Fiji 2 weeks before. You can't give a guy his first start against the Lions.
100%. And I just think also like they were missing some of their big ball carriers. Will Skelton.
Yeah, Skelton and Valentini are both back for this weekend as well.
But they're all back this weekend. But apparently they were fit last week and they didn't pick them. So.
But how match fit, I suppose, the other.
Yeah, but I mean, that's where they lacked, was the physicality side of things. They couldn't front up against the Lions physically, and that's where those sort of players coming back. I mean,
well, I suppose the other point I have sympathy is there's a contentious yellow card decision as well for Ben Earl. I think it was a yellow. I think he's very lucky that they said he's wrapped with that tackle, and if he's given a yellow,
you mean Furlong? Todd Furlong?
No, it was Ben Earl who made the no arms tackle, not Furlong, on the back of a scrum.
Yeah.
On the 5 meter line, and I think that was a yellow. But it's one the Lions got away with. But if it had been yellow, Australia, it's one of those things. Once you take your foot off the gas, it's very hard to put it back on. And if the Lions went down to 14. After having the attitude in their head clearly that they had the game won, I think there could have been a lot more issues for the Lions than what there ended up being.
No, I agree. So, but I'm hoping for a little bit more of a fight from the Australians. So I'm hoping for a 2-1 win for Lions in the series. I want it to be competitive, as a neutral. But I don't see it. I see a 3-0 for the Lions. I don't think Australia are up to the par. I just don't think they have the depth. I don't think they have the players that the Lions have. It's just, yeah. There's a reason Australia are 8th in the world at the moment. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Coach?
Yeah, sorry. Just had a bit of technical issues on my side.
No.
Yeah, I do think there was a bit of getaways from both sides and everything. I thought the game was managed very well by the refs as well, quite well. But is this the team that we're going to see going forward against Australia this weekend? We don't know, because they also had a game in midweek against the what's called Pacific Nations Pacifica. It was kind of a mixed side, which again similar to the game against Australia. Are we seeing a team that's going to allow 19 points with the international squad against them? Are they at the point where they're starting to get tired?
What I will say with the First Nation Pacifica game is there's maybe 1 or 2 players, but aside from that, a lot of those fellas were only called up in the last 2 weeks to play that game. The other point I will make is that game replaced. They were meant to play the Melbourne Reds, who of course went into administration and disappeared. The Lions kind of cowered out of that game. They should have played Fiji. And I think if they had played Fiji yesterday, there's no doubt they'd have lost. But they should have played Fiji yesterday in northeastern Australia. If they really, really kind of had the courage, they would have been beaten if they had played Fiji. I suppose maybe they knew that. But I think yesterday's concerning for a loss. They were very lucky, as I said, to win that game. Very lucky. First Nation Pacifica.
It also looks like
First Nation Pacifica didn't give them the front foot ball that Australia gave them. They didn't dominate the carry against First Nation Pacifica like they did against Australia. They were getting battered back, and they did get a bit rattled. I think the Lions, as you said, with Pollock situation and a couple of other incidents like of just handbags. I think the Lions got rattled, and to be honest, I think they were very happy just to get out after a minute 80. They were fairly fortunate
But
in
now,
the end to win
what
it.
I remember in the last Lions tour here in South Africa, second game is where the Lions start throwing handbags everywhere and they start trying to get under the head. There's still that video that goes around here in South Africa of Damien Delende basically pushing Mauro Toja down and keeping Mauro down, keep it like he's a little baby or something like that. I think this game coming up is typically where the Lions start trying to play their head game, whether it be after the game or anything like that. There was still that justice for Bucky's incident in 2009 after Bucky's cleaned out Alan Jones. So I think this game could be how does it end on a high note? Does it end on a sour note? We're just going to have to wait and see.
The other point is the last tour and this tour is the last tour you've had Gatland, who is a coach that's 5 years, is at least 5 years past his sell-by date and was past his sell-by date on that tour. And COVID. To be honest, there's not very much I remember of that tour. I blanked COVID rugby out of my mind pretty much entirely. But, I mean, you had a coach who was past sell-by date in the last tour. You don't have that this tour. I don't think there'll be a lot of that nonsense, because I don't think the Lions need it. They should be able to beat Australia by just playing rugby and just doing what they did the last game, playing that big contact game, getting the likes of Genge and Furlong and McCarthy and these guys into it, getting them on the ball, getting them forward and getting the ball out wide to your quick boys, your Hugh Joneses, or if they play Gary Ringrose instead of him and Tommy Freeman's. They shouldn't have to resort to handbags and they shouldn't have to resort to trying to get under Australia's skin, really. To be honest, I'd expect more the opposite. I think Schmidt will try and get Australia under the Lions' skin in Melbourne this weekend to try and get that bit of advantage. Because it's what he did it enough for Ireland when he was our manager. I cannot not seeing him do it this Saturday.
I think that's what makes this series a little bit different to everyone, because we have a coach that has coached Irish teams and stuff like that, now going up against pretty much the players that looked up to him while playing and at school and everything. It's going to be quite interesting to see, because Australia also knows this game they have to come out and win. If they don't win this game, they've lost the series. So they're going to want to play for immense pride now. And I think that's going to make the stakes a little bit higher. Like you said, is Smith going to tell them to go get under the skin, or are we going to see a different side? We're just going to have to wait and see. I also know Smith's also looking at the championship, because apparently he's already releasing names out for who's going to be in the championship, like a Will Skilton and a few other names as well.
Well, I suppose the Lions tour, sorry to interrupt, Curbs, but the Lions tour was never the be-all and end-all for Australian rugby over this 4-year cycle. It's the World Cup they're building to. This was big in terms of revenue and trying to give the Lions a game, but winning this series was never the be-all and end-all for Aussie rugby. The be-all and end-all for Aussie rugby is in 2 years' time they host the World Cup, and they cannot afford to do what they did in the last World Cup and crash out in the groups. This was merely just to kind of get a bit of morale back, try and give the Lions a game, and see where you are 2 years out from a home World Cup. If Australia can win a test, that's massive. Even if they lose a series, it shows that they are in a good place 2 years out from a World Cup if they're beating a team of the four better nations in the world. But, the Rugby Championship as well is their bread and butter. I think they have 2 tests at home against Argentina this year. They have to win them. They cannot finish last in the Rugby Championship this year. They need to beat Argentina. South Africa, of course, a different kettle of fish, so is New Zealand. But I think there's nearly more focus on not finishing last this year in the Rugby Championship, on beating Argentina to, get that bit of respectability back, rather than winning the series.
Yeah. But Joe, we'll cover a little bit more, especially with this week, it being probably one of the only international games. I think there's also the UAE Namibia game, which I did put a slide in
Yeah.
later, and we can confirm that. But yeah, these were the results of the other international games that we were looking at. Starting off with New Zealand, not an impressive game from New Zealand again. It looked like they were really in the game at certain parts of the game. They were like 2 tries behind at one stage, coming back to win by 10, which was great. I know I got some weird looks from people going, but you're a Springboks supporter. Why are you supporting New Zealand? Because they had Le Garrick, and I don't like cheaters. Yeah.
What I will say about this series is it's been a lot worse for New Zealand than it has for France, and that surely would make no sense because New Zealand won 3-0. But it's the
It
case
wasn't
now that you can
impressive.
easily make. Yeah, if France did what Ireland did 3 years ago, and France brought their whole team down, their first team down, like Ireland did 3 years ago, and beat New Zealand. If France had done that, they'd have won this series. If France had put their first team forward, of course, still missing Dupont, but if you're bringing the whole French team down,
Yeah.
I think maybe one or two of those guys might have got in, but that's it. They'd have beat New Zealand. That's worrying coming up to a rugby championship where, of course, they have South Africa twice at home, including in Eden Park. Have to go away to Argentina, which is not an easy game anymore. I know England beat them there twice. I think that was kind of, once
Again, it
off, we
wasn't their
saw what
full strength.
Argentina.
It
We
wasn't
saw,
their full strength
we saw,
side.
yeah, we saw what Argentina can do against the Lions when they beat the Lions in Dublin. That's what Argentina can do. And if New Zealand play like that in Argentina, they'd lose to Argentina. That's a fact. And if they play like that against South Africa, they will lose their home record in Eden Park, and they will lose the other test. They have to improve because that wasn't a weak New Zealand side at all. That was a very strong New Zealand side, near enough to the best they can put out.
Correct.
I'd be very concerned if I was a Kiwi looking at those. Well, maybe not second test as much, but if looking at the first test and looking at the third test, I'd be very concerned.
No, I would also. I mean, I did see a article where there was a few New Zealanders that said no, what's called Geordie Barrett would be subpar because he's played in the North. Actually saying him playing in the North has probably made him a lot better, and he was probably one of the outstanding players for New Zealand this tournament or the series. But
I
if I
don't think New
was
Zealand's
Rassie,
backs were the problem.
yeah, if I
Yeah, I
was
think
Rassie,
what
I'd be
Razzie can
licking my
take.
chops.
Yeah, what Razzie and Felipe Contepomi can take from this is New Zealand have weak forwards, and you can get at their forward pack, and you can beat them in the collision, and you can get that go forward ball and make it very hard for their backs to defend, because that's what France did. That's what France's third team did to them. So if you're looking at South Africa and Argentina, two teams victorious for forward power, that's concerning for New Zealand because they can dominate them in the collision. Argentina is some of the quickest backs in the world, and South Africa not far behind them.
Yeah, it is worrying. It's worrying times. I do think New Zealand are going to struggle at home against us. Not solely because of the Springboks, but purely because, like you said, up front they're weak, and we just happen to have a nice pack of forwards. But Argentina also is going to do some damage to New Zealand. I think they've lost to them before, and I think they might lose to them again this Quad Nations.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do think now the main thing is I think New Zealand will be better. I don't see New Zealand being that bad in the Rugby Championship. They need to improve about 3 or 4 times to compete with South Africa and Argentina. But I
But
cannot see
now,
them playing like that in the Rugby Championship.
you're saying that as well. The Springboks, Rassie hasn't been praising the Springboks all the way through, even though he won 55-10.
Yeah,
Rassie's
well, I
also been
suppose
on the Springboks
Georgia.
case.
I'm like I can come into this from a neutral standpoint. Like the Springboks got what they wanted off Georgia, which was physical tests. Jesus, the Jordans. They did it to Ireland a few weeks ago, and they did it to South Africa. They're really physical, very hard to stop. But their defence is where you can target them, and if you get the ball out wide, their backs aren't that good in defensive terms. But like that's what South Africa was probably want. They probably wanted a nation in this where Italy sent down a second team. Italy were poor, or a side that would just physically be able to hurt them and they could hurt the other side, where they could just get the physical challenge. Because I think they showed against Italy with the kind of backs play and all this innovation stuff, whether right or wrong. But what they just wanted against Georgia was pure brute physicality before the Rugby Championship, and I think they got that. I think it's not the worst result for Georgia. I know the scoreline is bad. It's very hard to go down to the home of the world champions, who a lot of starters in that side as well. No means the second side fully. There was some second side players in there, but it was a very strong Springbok squad.
Yep.
Georgia will definitely. It's been an invaluable summer to Georgia, despite losing to Ireland and South Africa. I think if Georgia got a second test against us, I think they'd have done a lot better. And I think they got invaluable experience from going down, playing the world champions in South Africa. They're actually playing these big teams, and I think it's good for them. They're not getting Portugal style rolled over. They are putting up that fight against strong sides, and it is good for Georgian rugby, even though the scoreline's maybe not so good.
Yeah, as Tim has said in the past, is a lot of the Georgian players are playing in the top 14, and they're not playing for bottom tier teams. They are playing for those guys competing for the top 14. And I mean,
most of them are front rows. Let's be honest.
No, most of them are front rows. But I mean, we're not talking about easy front rows when they come down. I mean, I have to give it to the Springboks rookie front rows. They did all right for their debut games. So I mean, we'll give it to them. I do have a funny feeling the two against Italy in this game were more like, okay, guys, get rid of the flair, get rid of all the stuff you want to do in the game, because when it comes to Australia coming down in August, it is switch on. It is game time. It is, you must do what is in the game plan. All this is now out. It's out your system. Now it's time to play. But yeah.
What Tim would also know about Georgian rugby is I think Georgian rugby is starting to somewhat change. If you look at their under-20 teams, and the last 5 or 6 years, they've had really good under-20 teams. They should have beat Ireland this year. They beat Italy in Italy, and they could have, they played really well. I think they finished 6th. They're coming out with some explosive backs now. Georgia, I mean, explosive. Some of those guys are off the mark and they're impossible to catch, and they showed it against Ireland. They will, you see David Ninyashvili is kind of the first of that kind come through. He's an awesome player. And they have another one, I can't remember his name, he's a winger, he's fantastic as well. But, Georgian rugby will evolve soon, and it has started to, where they've got that massive forward pack, they've got the front rows, they've got about 1 million of them playing in France. But they're starting to get really good backs coming through. And I think if they can blend that together, and they have a good coach too, Richard Cockerell, with all the experience he has, Georgia could really, really, in 5 years' time, they could go down and that scoreline could be halved. They won by 45 yesterday, South Africa. It could be about 20 in 5 years' time if Georgia can blend that together. So the future of Georgia rugby, I think, is bright.
But talking about it, sorry, Tim, go for it.
Just in 2016, they were putting a lot of effort into Georgian rugby and a lot of money into Georgian rugby. So it was already starting to change there. And the national coach came to the games, watched the plays. So it is changing. They are developing this, and you can clearly see it. So I think you're right. 5 to 10 years, they're going to be very competitive.
Yeah, themselves in Spain, Portugal have made a bit of a mess with post World Cup. I'd love to see Portugal back up, but themselves in Spain, in terms of underage sides, are the two in Tier 2 rugby that are really, really developing. Spain, of course, they didn't get relegated this year because they've expanded the under-20s World Championship. Again, Spain should have beaten Ireland. Ireland were, again, very fortunate. But Spain stayed up last year. They did well this year. Despite finishing last, they should have beat Ireland. and Georgia did well this year. So I suppose that kind of side, Tier 2 European rugby, and at least those two nations is starting to really push up. And, you 25,000 at a Spanish Cup final only 2 months ago. So those are kind of the two nations you're looking, if I was World Rugby, you put money into and really develop the game in Spain as well as Georgia.
But now, talking about developing, let's move on. Uruguay versus Argentina. That game was pretty close for quite a majority part of the game before Argentina just ran away with the game. And I was actually quite impressed with the way the Uruguayans were playing. They are definitely a team we can't underestimate right now.
Yeah, Curbs, if you remember, Uruguay played Argentina last year. It was an absolute blowout in Montevideo in Uruguay. On Saturday, they gave a really good account of themselves. As you said, the game was tight. Argentina, better fitness, ran away with it a bit in the end. Uruguay in rugby is getting big. They're probably, aside from, I wouldn't even, Fiji, I wouldn't really count as Tier 2 anymore. They're beating Tier 1 nations so often. Aside from Georgia, Uruguay are maybe the next best Tier 2 team, maybe Japan as well, in terms of they're really progressing. They seem to beat all the Tier 2 teams they play. They haven't played Georgia or Japan in I don't know how long, but they seem to beat all the Tier 2 teams they play. They've beaten, your Belgiums and Germanys, and they're beating most sides in the Rugby Europe Championship, and they've beaten America and they've beaten Canada. Uruguay are really improving, and they're being helped. There's Argentinian teams in their league now. The South American team was Brazil, Uruguay, Argentina, Chile. They all have club size. That's improving Uruguay. That's improving Chile and Brazil. So again, South American rugby is another one where you've got three teams in there: Uruguay, Chile, and Brazil. Where rugby is just getting more popular and growing, and is kind of waiting to take off.
Yeah. But yes, I mean, saying that, okay, we're not going to cover it too much because 5-40 loss for the USA over England. The game was stopped due to weather. Don't know how bad the weather was, but anyway.
Yeah,
but yes,
England's this tour for England has been fantastic, hasn't it? I mean, they've beaten Argentina in Argentina twice. Maybe not the RG's strongest side, but they still beat Argentina, a very hard place to go. They won there twice, and they battered America, which what they would have wanted. I mean, Borthwick could not have planned this better if he tried. England, of course, trying out new tactics in that game, and a lot of them did work. And so, they played a lot more of a running game than what we've seen under Borthwick. If England can maybe try and take that forward, who knows? We'll see in the autumn when they play, full strength Tier 1 sides in Twickenham. So hopefully England will.
But saying that, the under-20s didn't do the thing. Didn't do it. They lost to Australia under-20s. We'll just go through the results quickly. Ireland just pipping Spain 38-37. Italy beating.
Can I just make one comment on Ireland's under-20s? The coach should be sacked. Nathan Doak is not good enough. Bottom of the Six Nations. Should have been bottom of this. He has to go. He's not good enough. Out of his depth. Yeah.
Yeah. But then Italy beating Wales 31-23. Australia 68-40. France losing to Argentina 35-38. Georgia beating Scotland 22-7. And the results we actually really, really care about being the fact that we are now 2 times under-20 champions. What an intense game. But again, both teams shouldn't be too happy about how the game went. They were both making silly mistakes back and forth. The fact that we won, I was happy about, but I wasn't too pleased with it. Apparently, it was very humid, which did make issues with ball handling. But let's just say I'm glad we won. And apparently, 3 of the guys, including Hashim, has been invited to a training camp with the Springboks right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally from my own standpoint. There's no doubt the Baby Boks were the best team in this competition. I mean, the last couple of years we've seen unbelievable French sides just walk the competition. And kind of South Africa did that, maybe not to the same extent, but they battered teams. I mean, they annihilated a couple of sides there, obviously a more difficult final. But South Africa were magnificent the whole tournament. And I think, yeah, the other story of the tournament has to be Australia. Massive win against England.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it, but yeah, Australian, this youth side of Australia looked very good. But yeah, South Africa, easily the best side in the competition, kind of blew away everyone until the final that they also deserved to win.
Yeah. I mean, what's called Pete breaking DuPont's record with the most meters and everything like that just shows you the caliber of players coming through that everybody rated DuPont higher. Now there's someone with a higher running rate and everything. I do like a couple of the youngsters in the under-20 squad. I can definitely see them playing for the national first team quite soon. But yeah, it's great to see the talent. I mean, our captain not only captained the Baby Boks in this, but he also captained the Proteas and the under-19 Cricket World Cup at one stage as well. So, I mean, the amount of multi-talented players in the squad is actually quite amazing.
Yeah, but I suppose the other point that upsets me nearly as an Irishman is 2 years ago, we beat South Africa in the semi-final of the Under-20 World Cup. And look at the change in trajectory. I mean, Ireland finished 11th, beat Spain by a point. Again, deserved to lose, and South Africa won the bloody thing. So I suppose, but that just shows you what good coaching can do to two teams.
And that one of those coaches has now officially gone to the Bulls.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And of course, our under-20 coach of the time, Richie Murphy's up at Ulster.
Yeah.
So I suppose it is good. You should be rewarded for success at underage by, I think that could be a success with the Bulls bringing in Ackerman. I think there was Bulls were starting to get the Bottlers label a bit. They probably did need a change, especially if the players were really rising. But yeah, that'll be interesting. Make the URC harder next season.
Yes, we'll. I heard there might be some coaches moving around, but we'll cover that definitely. But coming back to Africa, the African rugby tournament, Rugby Africa Cup, there we go, grand final, being won by Zimbabwe, which gives them qualification to the Rugby World Cup in 2027. And a huge congrats to them. I know they put it out there that their goal was to qualify, and I'm glad that they actually succeeded and everything. A lot of emotions from those players. You have to give it to them. I'm so glad their plan worked out, and all the best to them going forward. Hopefully we can get some comments from a couple of supporters and hopefully players that we can find out what the plans are going forward. But if you are one of those supporters, please drop us a comment and let us know what you think and how you feel, because we are glad for you. Hopefully Namibia going up against UAE also qualifies, because we can have 3 African countries in the World Cup, which will be great.
Yeah, the Sables, fantastic. First World Cup since 1991.
Yeah.
Brilliant for Zimbabwean rugby. As I said before we went on air, now the test is to get games against other good Tier 2 teams. Aside from Namibia, the last properly tied that would be on Zimbabwe's level that they played was Russia in 2014 in a qualifier for the World Cup that they lost. The main issue now is to try and get maybe funding, but if they can get the funding, try and go to those teams in South America that I mentioned earlier, or up to Europe to play your Spains and Portugals and Germany's and Hollands. They need to get games into them now. If they can, I suppose what the objective for Zimbabwe will be is hopefully get a kind of lesser ranked third side in the 14 pool and beat them. I don't think they'll expect to go out of their group in the World Cup, but to be able to win a game, just like Portugal did in the last World Cup, will have to be their main objective.
I mean, maybe South Africa should put a South African URC team together to go play against them. The ones that aren't
I
in the.
suppose in fairness to you, I think they have played in the Curry Cup a couple of times, and they've played,
Quite a
the
few of them play,
Proteas,
yeah.
they played they played the Griquas and the Pumas, and they played kind of some of the regional sides before. In fairness to South African rugby, they have helped them, but hopefully they can get tested against other test nations.
Yeah. But I mean, saying that, 26th of July, which is actually this weekend, UAE is taking on Namibia in Uganda at the Mandela National Stadium.
Yeah. It will
just going back to the comment about Zimbabwe. So I know for the last World Cup that South Africa and Namibia were never going to meet each other. And they actually, Rassie invited the Namibians to train with the South Africans, like in a camp before they went to the World Cup. So I'm sure Zimbabwe would reach out, and I'm sure South Africa would do a similar thing if they don't, if it doesn't conflict with if they're on the same pool group.
Yeah, I don't know if they can. Maybe a kind of I suppose if only two teams qualify from one continent, they might just like try and split them, keep them apart. But yeah, I do hope they can get help off South Africa, but nothing's more valuable than games against other teams. So, playing, as I said, your Chiles or your Belgiums and Portugals and Spains might be the biggest benefit to Zimbabwe before going off to a World Cup.
I mean, here's a bit of a breakdown of what's happening. So yes, there's a wild card still to be played in the next playoff. So it's got some hectic. It's not definite yet. As you can see, Uruguay has qualified. Chile and Brazil still, by the looks of it, have a chance. So do Canada. Namibia has a chance. I mean, yeah. And of course,
I suppose what's popped up from the expanded World Cup is you've had Hong Kong qualify for the first time, which is great for them.
Yeah.
And you have, Brazil and Holland are two nations that have a very good chance. I think what has to happen for like the Chile and Brazil is they will probably have to play Canada and America, and if they can beat them, they can go into the World Cup. So that will kind of be the real test. Chile beat the two of them last time. They beat both Canada and America to qualify for the last World Cup. They might have to repeat that to go to this one.
Yeah. But I mean, we'll follow a bit more on the playoffs and everything getting closer to the World Cup. But some breaking news that came out this week. Steve Tandy has been appointed the head coach of Wales. It should be quite interesting to see what happens. I mean, we know that they finally broke their 18-game losing streak on their 19th game. A new leaf has been turned over. Let's hope he brings in another dynamic that helps keep Wales on the path that we are hoping they stay on, knowing that they have struggled for quite some time.
Yeah, well, I suppose Tandy was manager of the Ospreys in the past. And when the Ospreys were good under him, they made a European Cup quarter-final. They were playing some very good rugby, but it collapsed very quickly. But I suppose what the thing is he has to take is Matt Sherrack off the ball holding. They won a game, and they're playing Japan in Cardiff in autumn. They have to beat Japan in Cardiff. They have to, and I think they're playing Australia as well, and they have to target those two. Or they're playing Argentina, sorry, they'll have to try and beat Argentina as well, because they're playing South Africa and New Zealand, and you can write those two games off. They're going to get beat by South Africa and New Zealand.
Yeah.
So if he can win 2 games out of 4, at a minimum he has to win 1. They have to go into the Six Nations. They have Italy in Cardiff. it's small blocks for Wales. They can't just go out and go, new coach, we're going to beat South Africa, New Zealand, or Ireland, or England, and France's. They can't because they won't. They're not as good as those sides. But they have to target, as I said, your Japan and Argentina games, and they have to target Italy and maybe Scotland and try and win those games and try and just get morale up, get their seeding up for the World Cup. The last chances in autumn, if they can beat Japan and maybe Argentina, they can get their seeding in a good enough spot where they won't be in a group with two heavyweights. And yeah, hopefully he does well. But
yeah,
I'm not sure.
And Tim, your views on this?
I think it's a good appointment, and I think there's enough time for him to sort of turn the tide a little bit. But I do believe it's crucial to improve his standings before sort of the cut-off point. Yeah, it's massive for the World Cup. So yeah, the momentum hopefully for Wales has shifted, and sort of a new set of eyes and a new coaching philosophy. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good.
Oh, but I mean, moving on, a bit more local news. 4 players have officially kind of been dropped for now. One being Evan Roos. However, I was listening to I was reading an interesting article where Rashi says he hasn't written Roos off, and he's hoping to have him by 20 caps by the time the next World Cup comes around. So he's definitely not out the picture. Yes, he tried Visa, the Kobus Visa, not Jasper, this weekend. But I mean, yeah,
quite good, by the way.
Yeah, fantastic players. But talking about fantastic players, Pollard is literally, how can I say, getting to a point where he's got like 20 games to go, and he literally needs like 200 or 100 or 200 points basically to surpass Percy. So I mean, this is going to be interesting to see how this goes. Also, we know Andre isn't going to get as much game time as Percy would have, because Rassi goes on a bit more of a rotational basis. And saying that, this is officially the squad that has been selected for the championship, being Lord Diache, which we know he's back in after being sick and injured. Peter Steff, you can never leave him out. Jean-Luc Dupré, Eben says he's going to keep fighting for his position, which I think is great. Vincent Koch, Sia Khaleesi, Wilco Lowe, Malcolm Marks, Bongi, Franco Mostert, Ox, Ruan Nokia, which, to be honest, I think he's maybe a little bit overrated for this. But a decent player as well, so you can't. Asanati, Kocha, Algier, Marnus, which is great. I'm glad for someone like him to stay on as well. Marco, Owen Fenter, Jan Hendricks, Kobus Visa, and that's being the forwards. I mean, a lot of those names.
Is there any shots there? There's not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no shocks there.
Because, Johnny Klein, because he would probably be there if not for injury. But, yeah, I mean, the big names there.
Hanekom would have been in there again, injured.
Yeah, Hanekom maybe, actually. Yeah, he's injured, though, yeah.
But I think a lot of the names that we're missing, like a Netling for sure, and so forth like that, I don't think they're done yet. I think they still got games in hand. I think this is just to, this is how we're going into it for now. But if you're not in here, I think it was from 48, he cuts it to 35. I think if your name isn't on the list, I don't think you're out definitely, which I think is great. But then moving on to the backs, we got KLA, Damien Delende, Andre, Fassi, Sasha, who didn't really have a great game against Georgia, Ethan Hooker, which I'm glad he's been given the opportunity to go up against the big Southern teams, Jesse, Chezi, Villy, which, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Marnie, Kanan, Andre, Kobus, Edwall, which I'm also glad another player that's probably put up his hand for quite some time. Morne van den Berg is one of the players I'm a bit surprised. Grant Williams and Damien Willemse. But I mean, I don't know. Is Faf injured?
No.
Yeah, because I don't see his name there, which is a bit of a
I
surprise.
thought Faf was excellent when he came on.
Yeah,
I'm
which is a bit of a
surprised
surprise.
Morne van den Berg. He's a player I love at URC level, Van den Berg, but he has not shown it at international level, especially over his last two caps. He's been very poor. I would have thought Faf de Klerk would have went, but then again, maybe he's looking past Faf de Klerk. Maybe he's kind of looking to fellas that will definitely be there in 2027.
Yeah. Like I said, a lot of the players who aren't in here, again, it doesn't mean they're out. They're still in. I mean, too bad, Jacques isn't here because we can point out Damien Willemse is not getting golf clubs. He's actually in the green and gold.
Yeah.
Because we know how you
right. He'd be happy by Ethan Hooker going, though. And, Hooker is a great player. So I think that's a very warranted inclusion. But, yeah. I mean, I can only imagine. What is that guy doing here? You should be picking up golf clubs.
Yeah, but all right. The thing is with Ethan Hooker, I think fits into the Rusty narrative, where you're not just a one position player.
No, center and winger. I think that's that's a great blend, especially with 6-2 splits and 7-1 splits and all that. With backs that can play in multiple positions are very key to South Africa. And obviously, as I said, Hooker can play 13, 12 and on both wings. So that's 4 positions covered by
it. Yeah, he covers a lot,
yeah.
Especially with Rusty taking the chances he does with his bench.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you look at the likes of Andre Esterhuizen and the fact that he is almost being brought up as a flanker as well, which worked in the favor when we got the red card of Kobus Visser against Italy, where he was able to slot into the flanking position without any issues. So he can always be dynamic in going in the front or in the back line. So, I mean, I like Rusty's ideas. I've always thought, you know what, it could be. I would like to see the play of Esterhuizen and Kocher swapping around a bit to cause a bit of confusion, because Kocher is also quite quick that he could cover a center position. So I would like to see that in the future. But yeah, I mean,
well, I suppose it's different. Obviously, here playing Italy, I don't think Esterhuizen would be put on flanker unless, again, there's a red card or there's an injury or some sort, because you're going to get a lot more of a test out of Australia than Italy's second side, and that could easily be punished more by Australia than the kind of weakened Italy side.
And I mean, like I said with Rusty, sometimes you see selections and you, as a South African supporter, you're going, what have you got up your sleeve? And I mean, the likes of Andre Esterhuizen makes it a little bit more like, okay, cool. So what is actually up your sleeve now these days? So I like what Rusty's doing. He's making people think. He's making some of the pundits like Williams and Kerwin lose their mind on a regular basis. It's kind of funny to listen to them.
Williams. Oh, Matt Williams.
Yeah.
How that guy has a job. I don't know.
Yeah, but listening to how they lose their minds when Rusty plays some sort of thing like, okay, cool. Oh, they got a 5-3. Oh, no, there goes Esterhuizen onto the flank. Like, what the hell are they thinking? It is really funny to watch that. Like, often when I see them pull some funny move off, I'm like, okay, cool. What is Matt Williams and Kerwin going to say next? Because
I remember Matt Williams losing his mind one day because Munster played Edinburgh in Edinburgh, and Keith Earls dived, doing like a spun dive over the line, and he called that disrespectful as well. So, I mean, the guy he doesn't even like Munster. Never mind South Africa.
Yeah, it's funny watching some of these people go and give their things. But I mean, yes. Tim, have you got anything to put into this episode?
I'm just interested to take sort of hear what other people have to say sometimes, you know. It's really guys making good points, and it's nice to listen to someone else's opinion as well.
Yeah. Dara, anything else you want to say before I go into the ChatGPT joke?
No, not really. Bar the Matt Williams hate train, I don't really have anything else to to contribute to that whole point. Really, just please hope this joke is funny now, or I'm walking off.
Yeah.
He's got for last week. I didn't know quite what to say last week.
But you know what? Maybe if these don't work, maybe I should just look for Matt Williams quotes, because I mean that guy can also throw some weird and wonderful quotes out that just make us laugh. But anyway, according to ChatGPT, here's the joke of the week: why don't rugby players get hot? Because they have too many fans. There goes Dara. Where's Jacques? Jacques would have been losing his mind. But anyway.
Yeah, that's
remember,
Jacques.
guys, please.
That's Jacques. Jesus.
Remember, guys, please remember to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment below, share this with your friends.
How about this? Leave a joke in the comments below.
Yeah, leave a joke.
Can't be worse than that one. Can't be worse than that one. Obviously.
Exactly. Let's do what the public have to. Let's let the public put out. How about this? The joke with the most laughs or likes, we will say on the next podcast.
There we go. All right, there you go, guys. You got it. Next one to give us and the most likes. If you see one, like it. Please come on, share everything like that. Dara, thanks very much for joining us. It's been quite a bit from your hiatus and everything like that. Tim, as always, it's awesome to chat to you and everything like that. Fellow champions, thanks very much. Cheers and goodbye.
We'll be right back.